Season 1 of Silo is set in a dystopian future where generations of survivors are living in a massive underground bunker that extends hundreds of stories below the ground, due to toxic air making the Earth's surface uninhabitable. All records of humanity's past were lost in an uprising 140 years prior, and any gossip about what life was like before humans were forced underground, or relics from that forgotten era, are strictly forbidden. For any crime punishable by death, including voicing the illegal desire to go outside, the culprit is sent out in an airtight suit to the Earth's surface where they will face certain death to clean camera sensors so that the silo's inhabitants have a clear recorded view of the desolation above. Allison Becker is the wife of the silo's sheriff Holston, and she becomes convinced that the silo's leaders are lying to everyone about the dangers of the surface to keep everyone subservient. IT expert George Wilkins asks for her help in decrypting an old hard drive he has found that dates back to the time before the rebellion rid the silo of its history. On that hard drive, Allison discovers videos of the outside world that appear to show it flourishing with life, implying that the desolation shown to the silo's inhabitants are all a lie. Allison becomes consumed by her new radicalized beliefs and eventually declares her desire to go outside, much to her husband Holston's horror. Before departing to a supposed certain death, Allison tells Holston that if the outside world appears safe, she will clean the camera sensors. And so Holston watches on a massive viewing screen live feed footage of his wife cleaning the sensors before seemingly collapsing dead. Years later, Holston investigates the death of George Wilkins, which was ruled an accident, though his lover Juliette Nichols claims it was murder. Juliette is a hard-working and well-respected engineer working in the depths of the silo's mechanical department, where the lower-class citizens resent the more privileged inhabitants living on the higher floors. While looking into George's death, Holston is drawn back into Allison's own beliefs, and is finally convinced of his wife's conspiracy theory, and so Holston too chooses to go outside, believing he will be reunited with his wife. Up above, Holston witnesses a surface miraculously filled with life through his airsuit's visor, but down below, everyone watches the camera footage of Holston perishing upon reaching the surface. In his will, Holston nominated Juliette to serve as his replacement as sheriff. Holston's loyal friend and deputy Marnes and the silo's mayor Johns agree to honor Holston's wishes and make the long trek down to Mechanical to recruit Juliette for the job. Marnes and Johns meet great opposition from two of the silo's most high-ranking leaders, the head of Judicial, Judge Meadows, and the head of IT, Bernard Holland, who view the lower-class Juliette as an unsuitable candidate. But Marnes and Johns remain undeterred and offer Juliette the job. Juliette loves her work in Mechanical and loathes the idea of moving to the top of the silo amongst the pretentious residents she resents. But the opportunity to gain access to more resources in her investigation into George's murder spur her to accept the badge. And so Juliette leaves behind the makeshift family she has made for herself in Mechanical, including her friends, the engineers Knox and Shirley, the lower-level deputy Hank, and Juliette's kind and agoraphobic engineer mentor Walker. On the journey back up to the top, Marnes and Johns profess their love for each other before the mayor drops dead from an apparent poisoning, and Marnes is murdered in his own home. Head of IT Bernard takes over as interim mayor and swears in Juliette as the new sheriff, making amends with her despite his prior distaste for the lower-level residents. Juliette is assigned a new deputy, Peter Billings, who Judicial wants to replace Juliette as sheriff. Despite this, Peter proves himself a genuine friend to Juliette, swearing he has no allegiance to the oppressive department. As the two grow closer and Juliette begins to trust her new partner, she discovers that he is infected with the syndrome, a serious health condition that he keeps secret to avoid losing his job. While Juliette looks into both Johns and Marnes' murders, the head of Judicial Security Forces Sims frames a man named Doug in an attempt to quickly wrap up the investigation. While getting adjusted to her new life in the upper levels, Juliette develops a kinship with IT employee Lukas Kyle, who has an affinity for the strange lights seen in the surface's night sky, unaware that they are in fact stars. Juliette also tries to avoid seeing her estranged father, Dr. Peter Nichols, who she abandoned for Mechanical after the death of her mother years prior. Juliette's mother Hannah was a doctor who experimented with illegal relic magnifying equipment in an attempt to cure a hole in her young son Jacob's heart. Judicial somehow discovered this illegal equipment and raided the Nichols home, destroying the magnifier, leading to Jacob's death and the deterioration of Hannah's mental health that ultimately led to her death. Juliette has always blamed her father for ratting out her mother and has resented him ever since. Juliette also acquires a relic children's book with pictures of the outside world before the Earth's fall. Eventually, eventually Juliette discovers that there are advanced surveillance cameras hidden all throughout the silo, including in people's private residences, which Judicial uses to see everything to advance their oppressive rule. Juliette realizes that this is how they learned of her mother's magnifier, and that Peter was innocent, leading to the father and daughter reconciling. Eventually, Juliette evades Sims and Judicial forces to find George's relic hard drive that Holston had kept hidden. Unable to access its contents, she turns to Lukas for help, who denies her out of fear of the consequences. Juliette decides to take the hard drive to the smartest person she knows, Walker, but is unable to reach the lower levels of mechanical due to Judicial forces. With nowhere to turn, Juliette is confronted by Bernard, who reveals that he is the true secret leader of the silo, who enforces all of its oppressive rules, and who was responsible for the murders of Johns and Marnes. Bernard and Sims then arrest Juliette and falsely claim that she is asked to go outside, ensuring that she'd be forced out of the silo and into certain death. Juliette manages to escape custody and go into hiding with the help of lower-level allies Patrick Kennedy, a relic smuggler, and Danny, a criminal hacker. Together, they discover videos that George had left for Juliette on the hard drive, where he affirms his love for her and implores her to search for a secret door underneath the silo. Danny then broadcasts footage of the thriving and vibrant surface to the entire silo before the broadcast is shut down by Bernard, and Juliette is finally apprehended. And for his association with Juliette, Lukas is fired by Bernard from IT and sent to work in the silo's mines. In the end, as Juliette prepares to be sent to the surface, Bernard reveals to her that George's death was not in fact a murder, but a sacrifice he made so he couldn't be tortured by Judicial into giving up his fellow co-conspirators. Bernard's confidence in his known order of the silo is shaken when Juliette reveals her knowledge of a secret door at the bottom of the silo. And for his loyalty throughout Juliette's investigation, Bernard names Sims his shadow to train him in the true secrets behind the silo. As Juliette is forced to leave the silo in her airtight suit, she sees the same imagery of vibrant life in her visor's monitor, leading her to the shocking revelation that this promise of life on the outside was the true lie, used to give final moments of hope to those sent out to clean. The desolate and uninhabitable landscape was the truth, yet strangely, Juliette doesn't die like all of the others sent before her to clean. Instead, Walker had realized that past cleaners were sent out with purposefully faulty suits that allowed in the toxic surface air, and so she managed to reinforce Juliette's suit with reliable heat tape from her friends in mechanical. And so Juliette marches away from the silo, going further than anyone had gone before, discovering dozens of other silos extending out into the distance, with a ruined city adorning the horizon. In Season 2 of Silo, as Juliette ventures further into the outside world, her suit begins to run out of air, forcing her to race for safety in the nearest silo. Unfortunately, when she reaches the entrance, she discovers that the outer doors have been forced open from the inside, and countless dead bodies litter the area. Juliette removes her suit, destroying it in the process, and begins to explore the silo's depths, discovering its lower levels are completely flooded. A lone survivor finally reveals themselves, barricaded inside the IT department's vault. This man, known only as Solo, reveals that he was placed in charge by the previous head of IT, Russell, and told to never let anyone inside the vault as their silo devolved into chaos due to a revolt. Now everyone in this silo has been dead for decades after trying to go outside, and Solo has grown fearful and distrustful. Solo also explains that they are currently in Silo 17 while Juliette's home is Silo 18. The man then warns that her actions of refusing to clean and walking across the horizon will lead to a revolution in her silo, inevitably leading to a similar fate and the deaths of everyone inside. And so Juliette becomes determined to return home as quickly as possible to save her friends, though to do so she will need to create a new airtight suit to withstand the outside conditions. Back in Juliette's home of Silo 18, Bernard reads from a book bestowed to IT heads, The Order, which details how to run the silo and warns him that in the event that someone fails to clean the sensors, it is time to prepare for war. Bernard gives Sims and Judicial control of the sheriff's department in the hopes of quelling a potential revolt, then gives a speech to his people, explaining that newly developed tape had helped Juliette survive longer on the surface, but that she assuredly died after crossing the ridge. In mechanical, Shirley tells everyone that Juliette's tape was switched out by Walker, proving Bernard's lies and leading everyone to question what else he is lying about. Juliette becomes a symbol of rebellion, with one engineer Teddy graffitiing "Juliette lives" on the wall, sparking a chain reaction throughout the entire silo. Teddy is arrested, creating further unrest in the Down Deep. Bernard follows the rules of the Order, blaming Mechanical for all civil unrest in an attempt to turn the rest of the silo against them. Sims visits Patrick Kennedy, who has been arrested for helping Juliette, offering to give him a drug that will make him forget the trauma of losing his wife in exchange for his help. As Shirley leads her Mechanical allies in protesting Teddy's arrest, Patrick infiltrates the area and throws a firebomb, instigating a violent riot that ends with the death of a young engineer named Coop, and results in further tension between the residents of the Down Deep and the Up Top. Paul Billings is named Juliette's replacement as sheriff and becomes torn between his duties to the Silo's sacred pact and his desire to do what is true and just for all. He begins investigating the firebombing incident and eventually finds Patrick Kennedy, who had been injured in the riot, and seeks the aid of Juliette's father, Dr. Peter Nichols, in tending to the wounds. Peter has also been inspired by his daughter's actions and refuses to take part in the secret Silo mandate of forcing birth control upon residents deemed unworthy of having children. After helping Patrick mend, he reveals to Peter and Billings that Sims had orchestrated the riot to stoke further division. With tensions mounting, Bernard turns to Judge Meadows for unwavering support, which she agrees to give in exchange for a suit in order to go outside, as she has grown tired of life inside the silo. Sims grows frustrated by Bernard now only seeking counsel from Meadows, all but abandoning him and their partnership. And so Sims goes rogue and rallies support to oust Meadows as judge. Wanting to evade the countless deaths that would come with an all-out war, Knox decides to try to broker a truce between Mechanical and Judge Meadows. And so he heads up top, accompanied by Shirley Walker and Walker's ex-wife, the head of supply, Carla McLean. Despite his affection for Meadows, Bernard ultimately realizes that he can't allow her to leave the silo during this time of tumult, as it would only further stir unrest. And so he reluctantly poisons her. As the judge dies, she reveals that the hard drive that Juliette had stolen contains a secret message from Salvador Quinn, the head of IT 140 years ago during the previous rebellion. Bernard then rebukes Sims for acting against Meadows, removing him as IT Shadow, and instead installing him as the new judge. When Knox's group finally arrives for their meeting with Meadows, Bernard instead frames Knox and Shirley for her murder. As the Mechanical group flees, the entire Up Top turns against them, desiring justice and revenge. Carla is arrested during the escape, though Knox, Shirley, and Walker are shockingly aided by Sims' wife Camille to evade capture and reach the safety of the Down Deep. Sims is furious when he learns of his wife's actions, but Camille insists that they must play both sides to advance their own power amidst the rebellion. Back in Silo 17, Solo leaves the vault to help Juliette acquire a firefighter's suit that could be tailored to temporarily protect her from the toxic outside air. During this mission, Solo recounts with childlike wonder details of the outside world before it fell to ruin. After Juliette acquires the suit and prepares to leave, Solo begs for her help in fixing the flooded generator, as the water levels are rising and will reach him within 10 months' time. Juliette refuses, insisting that she must return to her own silo as quickly as possible to save her friends. While preparing to leave, Juliette collapses from an infected injury that she had failed to properly treat. Upon waking up, she discovers that Solo had stolen her gear in order to force her into helping him. Back in Silo 18, Bernard sets up barricades on the silo stairs, blocking off Mechanical from vital supplies. As tensions grow, Walker rallies the Down Deep to remain loyal to each other, while rebels from the Up Top, believing in their cause, begin secretly sending down supplies from the trash chute. Billings and Peter are now barricaded in the Down Deep, and without access to his normal diet, Billings realizes that his shakes have gone away, and that the syndrome may in fact be an illness created by those in control of the silo to keep residents in line. Meanwhile, Bernard retrieves Lukas from the mines and tasks him with extracting files from Juliette's hard drive. Lukas proves his usefulness, finding blueprints for a tunnel leading outside of the silo, as well as a coded letter from Salvador Quinn. In response, Bernard decides to name Lukas his new IT Shadow, revealing Silo 18's vault to him, filled with relics from before the Earth's surface became uninhabitable. The entire history of the silo, going back 350 years, years, is stored on an advanced computer known as the Legacy. But the origins of the silo's creation and the means by which the world ended remain a mystery. Bernard reveals to Lukas that there are 51 total silos, a fact made known to every IT head. He then explains that their silo had once been in constant conflict due to residents remembering the outside world and striving to achieve it once again. Salvador Quinn poisoned their water supply to make everyone forget their history and blamed all of the silo's issues on Mechanical. Now, Lukas acquires Quinn's personal copy of the Pact, which details the rules of life in the silo and uses it to decode his message. This message leads Lukas to the Down Deep, where he finds a mysterious door, but is stopped by a computerized voice that warns him to keep quiet about his discovery, or else a safeguard will be initiated throughout the silo. In Silo 17, Juliette dives into the depths of the Down Deep to try to fix the flooded generator. Unfortunately, her air supply fails, and when she comes up for air, she discovers that Solo has been captured, and she is shot with an arrow by a group of strangers. These strangers are revealed to be 5 young survivors, who blame Solo for the deaths of their parents when he refused to allow them inside his vault to acquire food. The survivors force Juliette to help them find a way inside the vault, and in their search, Juliette discovers that Solo himself was a child during the original revolt, locked inside the vault for his own protection by his father, the head of IT. His real name being Jimmy, Solo swore to his father that he would keep the vault safe, and has lived in Arrested Development ever since, never truly maturing and always living in fear. Solo confesses to having killed the group's parents in self-defense, makes peace with them, and allows everyone to finally enter his vault. The group takes in the sights of various relics from the old world and partake in the delights of Solo's stockpile of food. Jimmy then gives Juliette a working suit that he had kept hidden from her, having not wanted her to leave him solo once again. Despite this, Solo apologizes and vows to look after the others in Juliette's absence, then shows her a safeguard procedure manual detailing how pipes can pump toxic air into the silo to kill off rebellious residents. With this knowledge, Juliette bids Solo an emotional farewell, then races towards Silo 17 to turn off the pipes and save her friends. Back in Silo 17, Knox and Walker trick Bernard into sending all of his soldiers to Mechanical, while the rebels secretly make their way up top. Peter and Deputy Hank set up explosives on the stairwell, only to realize that they've lost their timer. Peter gives Hank his watch to pass along to Juliette, then sacrifices himself to detonate the bombs, blowing up the stairs and trapping Bernard's soldiers down below, leaving the mayor defenseless against the rebels up top. Lukas informs Bernard of his findings and resigns as Shadow. Patrick Kennedy leads a mob from the Down Deep, wanting vigilante justice against Bernard and to open the doors to the outside world, which they believe is actually inhabitable. Realizing he is defeated, Bernard names Sims the new IT Shadow, gives him access to the vault, and then prepares to venture outside to take his fate into his own hands. As Sim takes his family into the vault, the legacy computer informs them that only Camille has been chosen to stay. In the end, the rebels have nearly opened the doors to the outside world when Juliette arrives on the cameras, sending them a message to remain inside as the outside air is in fact toxic. As she makes her way inside, she crosses paths with Bernard, who has lost faith in the mysterious overseers of the silo, believing they can use the safeguard procedure to kill everyone with the flip of a switch, and would now rather die outside on his own terms. Juliette informs Bernard that she has uncovered a way to save everyone, but before she can set this plan into motion, the pair are trapped inside the silo entrance's incinerator, which ignites them both in flames. As the season comes to a close, the story flashes back 2 centuries prior, before survivors of a mysterious apocalyptic event were forced underground. In Washington, D.C., a Georgia congressman named Daniel meets with a woman named Helen at a restaurant, where the two discuss a recent attack on the U.S. by Iran and ponder how extreme the ramifications will be. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and why not check out this recommended video while you're at it.